An anti-oppressive stance recognizes that the systems and structures are working well for some and often at the cost of others. What we are trying to do is to level the playing field. Because when we recognize how the systems and structures might be in fact hurting some students, we can work to repair that. We can keep helping the students who are successful continue their success, but we can interrupt, challenge, and change the outcomes for the students who have not been successful. That requires us to adopt certain types of principles in the work that we do. The first of which is we have to think about our intent and our impact. Oftentimes, as human beings, when people ask us anything, we resort to our intentions. We talk about, this is what I intended to do, instead of looking at the impact. Because many of us may not have particular lived experiences, when people come to us and they tell us how they've experienced something, we might feel defensive about it. Instead, intent versus impact causes us to look at what has the impact been and how can we actually change that outcome. None of us come to school with the intent of harming students. None of us get up in the morning and say, today I'm going to make sure all of fill in the blank, any particular group will not be successful. But our patterns of results are telling us that it is in fact happening. What we want to do is, in recognizing that that is an impact in our system, begin by thinking about how do we challenge it in the ways that we work every single day. The second thing to remember is that systems and structures drive practice, and that they're artifacts of values and attitudes. What that means is that the systems and structures that we use actually guide us to a particular outcome, but that those structures are not neutral. They were created by people in a particular time with a particular mindset. There's no such thing as a neutral space. There's no law or rule that is fully objective because the people who created it from a particular type of mindset. What we need to do is, when we start determining that some students are least successful, begin to think and talk about how those systems and structures might be creating the exact same type of outcomes that we're actually trying to stop. It will help us to maybe think about how we might interpret things a little bit differently to support people who have traditionally not been successful in the ways that the structures are set up. The next principle is the idea of choice. Choice is the hallmark of privilege. What that means is that for some of us, when we have the choice to think about some things or not, we have privilege. Because for some people, they may not have the same choices. An example of this would be the experiences of young black men. We often see that black men or young black boys are often stopped by law enforcement or often targeted in ways that ends up with more black men being killed. We know, for example, that less girls are going into STEM. The reality is, for young girls in particular who may not be choosing STEM, there are ways that they may feel about themselves or think about what their capacity is as individuals and as thinkers to be able to go into those fields. Boys, for example, would not have to think about that because often the way we conceptualize STEM, a lot of boys see themselves going into those roles. Because we don't experience the world the same way, for some of us we have the choice to think about things and the choice not to think about them. Some of our students and our families have no choice. They have to live their lives thinking about these realities on a day-to-day basis. An anti-oppressive stance is an active stance. It means that we are always in action and we're thinking about how to disrupt the status quo that is leading to the kinds of outcomes in which some students are not succeeding at their best levels. That means that we're constantly thinking about our intent and our impact. We're thinking about how the systems and structures are operating. We're remembering that spaces are not neutral and that not all of us have the exact same choices as everyone else. As we do this work, it's also really important for us to remember that guilt, shame, and blame are useless. They are not going to help us. When we discover that we might have been doing something that could be potentially hurting kids, the best thing for us to do is to be able to learn from it, change what we're doing, and be able to do something better moving forward.